Well, hello there. Welcome to the Obithorian Alliance. I'm Jacob.
And I'm Luke.
And in today's video, we are reviewing Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. If you like the sound of that, like and subscribe and stick around.
So, Jacob, tell me, what's this movie about?
Well, it's the fifth installment. Indy has come... He's retiring and he has to get used to retiring. He's also in his 80s and it is set in 1969 when the moon landing is happening and he has to coexist with getting old. He has suffered trauma that is referenced in the movie and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they're searching for this Archimedes dial, which is where the name Dial of Destiny comes from. And as always, Indy is fighting the Nazis, which is an ongoing theme. So, who stars in this film?
Harrison Ford, Madison Mackles, all playing the villain.
Yes, and we've got to introduce to a newish actress who, unless you watch Fleabag, you wouldn't know who it is, and that's Phoebe Waller-Bridges.
So this film came out in June the 29th. You can watch it now. And this is also the first film in the series that isn't directed by Steven Spielberg or George Lucas.
Great. So let's get into our scores. We'll change up the categories a little bit and we'll let us know what you think of it. So what did you give the plot, Jacob?
I gave it a 6. You know, it is the fifth movie in the franchise. I did like the first 20 minutes of the movie, and, you know, it does its best to entertain you, but I found the plot not as exciting as the other ones, but I still enjoyed it for what it was, a fun action movie.
I gave the plot a 6.5, I think, very similar to Jacob. It was what was expected. It was a fun action movie. Somewhat predictable. It had some unique concepts which I'll get into later, but it was about as good as it could do for this type of film. So 6.5. Characters?
This gets a 6. Indy gets all the points. He's really the standout, the fan favorite character. But the new characters, the villain probably gets maybe a little extra point as well, but the other characters don't really stand out. So for me, you're seeing this movie for Indy, and I think he holds up the movie for the most part.
I gave it a 5.5. My reason's mainly because I've only seen the first of the films, where Jacob's seen 5 others now, and I don't have the same, hype about Indiana Jones. I just looked at it as, he's an elderly man that probably shouldn't be able to do the things he does. So the characters were just a bit lower for me because I didn't have that build up. So what about the overall experience in the entertainment of this film?
For me, it's a very matched bag. It gets a 5. Like I've said, I really enjoyed the first 20 minutes. That was the best part of the film when we get to see what happens there. But unfortunately, there are plot holes, conveniences for the plot. My critic brain was going, oh, the writing isn't that good, very subpar writing. But the viewer and just audience was going, this is a fun movie. I can see why people are wanting to watch it. So very mixed. Yeah.
I actually seen this a bit differently than Jacob, giving it an 8 for this. I actually was quite entertained through it. I thought it wasn't too slow. It kind of had the right amount of action. I thought that maybe because I hadn't seen the others, it wasn't, the same repetitive process, or it wasn't different than what you expected. I just saw it on face value. But, I laughed through it, and I wasn't bored. And I've seen a lot of movies in the last couple of weeks that have put me to sleep, and this wasn't one of them. So I really enjoyed it. So an 8 for me. What about the presentation? So this includes the visuals, the music, the scoring, the way they cut the scenes. What do you give this, Jacob?
7.5, the highest score so far. I really like the nostalgic music, the presentation, the visuals. They really did a good job in this category. Definitely caught the eye of how they presented the movie. Really enjoyed that aspect.
I gave a 7.5 as well. I liked The cut scenes when it kind of showed a CGI version of Harrison Ford being Indiana Jones in the past, it looked a bit funny, but I'm fine with that. So it's not a perfect score. But then I liked when he came into the more recent times and they had the parade celebrating the return of the people from the moon landing. It was presented really well. So 7.5. The ending, what'd you give that?
8, another high score. It does end in a happy way, good way to send off the character, but it's not a perfect ending, but nothing is perfect. So really, I did like the ending. That was probably the first 20 minutes, and the ending were probably the best bits about the about the movie. Just everything else was not as good.
I gave the ending a 6.5. I think I would have liked to have seen, without giving away, an alternate option where Indiana Jones basically wanted one thing and his goddaughter wanting to do another, and that kind of gave the happy ending. I probably would have rather seen it went the other way, and he didn't get forced to do what she was requesting of him, so that was my main issue. I think that would have definitely closed off the franchise, but, we didn't get that ending, so 6.5. What about the originality and the uniqueness of this?
This gets a 5. For me, it kind of does other formula that's been done before, and it's the 5th film within the franchise, so it's hard to, do original stories. But I did enjoy where they were going with the story, so very Max bag, and it's been a trend that's been going with this movie.
So I gave it an 8 here, which is another big difference to Jacob. I thought it was really unique in the way that they did time travel. I think that we've seen a lot of time travel films lately, or even multiversal films, where there's this butterfly effect, where this kind of had that, but in a unique way, and you've really got to think about it. And it was again, without giving away, I thought that they did that in a really, really unique way. And the more that I think about it, there's more layers to it to unpack, and it's actually a film I think I'd like to watch again because of that. So I actually think it was unique in a space that's actually quite oversaturated at the moment. So moving on to the last one. So we've got this as X Factor. So it's really our own personal view of, was it worth it? The time value? Should it be seen in cinemas? Could you recommend it to people? It's just an overall kind of personal bonus score. So what did you give it for X Factor, Jacob?
With the X Factor, it gets a 6. I think if you're a fan of the franchise, of course you're going to enjoy it, but for new people, it's hard to recommend because I don't know if they would enjoy the things that are going on, and unfortunately, I don't think they get everything right with the X Factor of the movie, and I think they do try and put Indy as the secondary character and try to put in the new characters forward. And the first 20 minutes of the movie is definitely the best, but unfortunately they couldn't stay in that timeline because we knew we were going to see him when he was older. Yeah.
You think it's worth going to the movies to see, or you think it could be something you could wait for streaming? Was there value in going to the movies for it?
As a fan, I think you definitely need to see it, but as a newcomer, I think you can wait to stream it.
So for the X Factor, I gave it a 7. Having, as I said, only seen the first installment of Indiana Jones and now this one, I thought it was worth it. I actually went in there fairly open-minded. I'm glad I went to the cinemas and paid to go see it. I think if I didn't go to the cinemas, I probably wouldn't have watched it at all. So the fact that I went there, I experienced it, without distractions, and got the full cinema experience of the popcorn and drink. I thought it was really good, and I would recommend it to people, even if you weren't a fan of the franchise, because it was appropriate for a lot of people. I think even kids could find this enjoyable because, yes, it's got a complex storyline if you think about it, but it's also kind of action and a bit of fun. So I think it's appealing to a lot more people than it intended, but I can't give it top marks because I have a feeling from what Jacob said and what other people have said that are fans that it didn't meet the expectations of fans. So it probably brings in new fans, but it's probably disappointed old fans. So it's kind of, in the middle there. So give it a 7 out of 10. So what was your total score, Jacob?
62%. I think it roughly deserves that much. It was a good send-off for the character, but part of me was hoping maybe a different ending as well, but overall it does what it needed to do. I definitely hope this is the final film of the franchise and they don't try and make another one, but they are making a show on Disney Plus without Harrison Ford, so see how that goes, yeah.
So mine totaled in at a 70%, which is probably one of the biggest discrepancies we've had in reviewing since starting this YouTube channel. So I, as a neutral observer, enjoyed it. Would probably watch it again. I'm glad I went to the cinemas to see it, and I would recommend anyone that of all ages or interest to go give it a watch. When I was sitting in the cinemas, I noticed such a diverse range of people. There was a lot of older people watching it, which is interesting to see. Obviously, previous fans and probably Harrison Ford's in their demographic. And then there was lots of people younger than myself that were there having fun. So it appealed from a wide spectrum, teenagers to people in their 70s and 80s. So it had a good appeal. So I would recommend it for sure.
Well, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, like and subscribe. Comment down if you enjoyed the film or not. Which side of the score spectrum are you on? As always, you're awesome and keep being awesome. Bye-bye.